One Asia with rope and the joint inscription on the UNESCO representative list of ICH of Humanity. We are marking 5th anniversary of that joint inscription. It is hosted by HCAP and it is sponsored by the Cultural Heritage Administration. My name is Kim Hyung-gun and I'm a professor of Dongha University of Korea. So it has been 5 years since we succeeded in joint inscription on the UNESCO representative list of ICH for humanity, along with Cambodia, Vietnam, and the Philippines. That was December 2nd, 2015, and today we are celebrating the 5th anniversary. So if it is a human, it's his birthday, so we have to bring cake and have to enjoy the party together. But because of the COVID-19, we cannot meet physically in face-to-face, but we are still face-to-face on the screen by using this virtual technology. So today's event consists of a 4-part. We will have first opening ceremony and then session 1. In session 1, we will look at progresses that have been made for the past 5 years in each of 4 countries, Cambodia, Philippines, Korea, and Vietnam. And in session 2, a presentation with the title of the Tug of War, Recollection and Outlook will be delivered by Professor Ho Yong-ho. And lastly, we'd like to watch videos made by Vietnam, followed by the closing ceremony. Then first, let me start the opening ceremony. The opening ceremony will be first opened with the welcome speech by Jung Jae-suk.
반갑습니다. 문화재청장 정재숙입니다. 줄다리기가 유네스코 인류 무형문화유산 등재된 지 5주년이 되었습니다. 줄다리기는 오래전부터 공동체 단합은 물론 외부의 나쁜 기운을 몰아내는 의미의 우리의 대표.
It is very nice to meet you all. I'm Jung Jae-suk, Administrator of the Cultural Heritage Administration of Korea. It has been 5 years since tugging rituals and games were inscribed on UNESCO's representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Tug of War is Korea's representative ritual as well as game that was with us for a very long time, which was meant to strengthen the community's solidarity and drive off evil spirits. Therefore, I believe it is an element that duly deserves recognition as one of UNESCO's intangible cultural heritage. Ever since the inscription, transmission activities gained speed in Korea and exchange with countries increased as well. I would like to extend my gratitude to Korea Traditional Juldarigi Safeguarding Association for actively engaging in such efforts. Today's event is to shed light on the past 5 years of work in the field of tug of war and commit to future activities. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, the countries of joint inscription cannot join in person, but nevertheless, I do believe this is a truly meaningful event. I truly hope the multi-nomination countries join hands in the transmission of tug of war. The Cultural Heritage Administration of Korea will also spare no effort in the endeavor. I would like to extend my gratitude to the organizers and staff for making the event possible. Thank you very much.
네, 한국.
Well, that was Jung Jae-suk, Cultural Heritage Administrator, who leads policies about the cultural sector of Korea. I would like to have a second congratulatory message from Secretary General of HCAP, Kim Gi-hyung.
총장님 마이크가 뮤트가 되었네요.
I believe your mic is on mute.
네. Thank you, Professor Kim. Dear colleagues and friends, my name is Kim Gi-hyung, DG of HCAP. First of all, I congratulate the organizer on holding this event under this challenging situation caused by the COVID-19. In addition, I want to express sincere gratitude to Madam Minister Jung Jae-suk, Cultural Heritage Administration, the Republic of Korea, Director General Mr. Shion Soperius, Minister of Culture and Fine Arts, Kingdom of Cambodia, Dr. Let Ming Ni, Vice Chairperson of Vietnamese Association of Cultural Heritage, Mr. Shin-Soo-Sik, President, Federation of Korean Traditional Tugging Rituals and Games Transmission Organization, for your warm congratulatory remarks and opening remarks. The pandemic has changed a lot the way of how we think and act ourselves. In the meantime, it's pleased that all countries gathered here by adopting virtual technology to celebrate the 5th anniversary of UNESCO joint inscription of Tugging Rituals and Games. The title of this event is One Asia with Love, reflecting the penetrating key concept these days, resilience and solidarity. I think the theme come out in the sense and a timely one. Tugging rituals and games has a long history with rice cultivation in Asian countries, and it has practiced playing for full harvest and harmony of communities. By twisting a rope and tugging a strings, we will reflect the meaning of multi-nomination and the value of intangible cultural heritage as a shared culture. Today, there are some restrictions, for example, social distancing norms, to enjoy it eventually fully. However, I truly believe that our cooperation will last as ever, as far as we can firmly keep the spirit of unity and alone together. Once again, congratulations to all, and Cambodia, Philippines, Vietnam, and Korea. I wish a fruitful ground from this seminar. Thank you very much.
네,
Well, that was a message from the Secretary General of HCAP, Mr. Kun Gi-hyung. He talked about the value of the tug of war briefly, and he also expressed his trust and solidarity so that we can develop tug of war together. Now we'd like to move on to Mr. Sion Sope Aris, Director General of Techniques for Cultural Affairs, for celebration speech.
In charge of Cambodia intangible cultural heritage and cultural industries of the Ministry of Cultures and Fine Art of the Kingdom of Cambodia. It is my great honor to deliver congratulatory remarks on behalf of the Kingdom's Ministry of Cultures and Fine Art on the 5th anniversary of the inscriptions of the Tugging Rituals and Games on the UNESCO representative list of intangible cultural heritage of humanities. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to express our sincere appreciations and congratulations to the Kingdom of Cambodia, the Republic of the Philippines, the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, the Republic of Korea, for working closely and amicably on a multinational nomination of the Tugging Rituals and Games and successfully inscribed it on the UNESCO representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanities. The Tugging Rituals and Games not only represents a shared cultural heritage of our four countries, but also the rice farming communities in Asia at large. The inscription clearly brings pride to all communities that has safeguarded this centuries-old cultural heritage, even during a sheer economic gains and rapid globalizations. This 5th anniversary celebrations is not only a mark of success and unity of our countries for joint nomination of the Tugging Rituals and Games, but also a reminder for every nation, especially local communities, to take pride and vigorously safeguard their cultural heritage in general. Last but not least, I would like to further extend the Ministry's gratitude toward the Republic of Korea, especially the HCAP, for hosting this wonderful online event. It is with such regret that all nations involved could not celebrate together on this occasion due to the pandemic that is raging throughout the globe. Nevertheless, our gathering through the online medium should be seen as a solid evidence that our commitment to form a greater bond between our nations and our safeguarding of the unique tagging ritual and games remain as strong as before. I wish you all the success and be safe from the COVID-19. Thank you very much. ขอบคุณที่รัก
네, 시온 소페아리스 캄보디아.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Sion Soparith, for your kind remarks. Last but not least, we have Dr. Leti Min Lee, Vice Chairperson of the Vietnam Association of Cultural Heritage. Your congratulatory remarks, please.
레티민니, 예, 음소거.
Yes, Dr. Leti Min Lee. Could you unmute, please?
Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm very honored to be delivering the welcoming remarks for a very special and significant event in celebration of the 5th anniversary of UNESCO inscription of the Tugging ritual and game from Cambodia, Korea, the Philippines, and Vietnam on the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. In this occasion, on behalf of Vietnam Association for Cultural Heritage, I would like to send our warmest congratulations to all the Tugging communities across the 4 countries. In this new normal context caused by COVID-19, although we have missed the chance to meet and exchange in person, I believe that we have always been connected thanks to Passion for Heritage. It is the most important connecting Tugging rope all of us. Finally, I would like to thank each club for this initiative. I wish you all with good health, prosperity, and especially success in the safeguarding of Tugging ritual and games. Thank you.
네, 레티민니, 베트남.
Well, that was Ms. Let Min Lee, Vice Chairperson of Vietnam Association of Cultural Heritage. So we have listened to all the congratulatory and welcoming remarks. Now we'd like to have an opening speech from Shin Soo-shik, President of Korea Traditional Juldarigi Safeguarding Association. The President Shin will give us an opening speech. Great to see you all. My name is Shin Soo-shik, and I'm president of Korea Traditional Juldarigi Safeguarding Association. In various geographies across Korea, Tug of War or Juldarigi are reflecting main characteristics of respective regions, and they have walked on a different path of development so far. We were able to see tug of war rituals of other countries like Cambodia, Vietnam, and the Philippines. These 3 countries also have different versions of tug of war in different regions of their countries. This shows that tug of war rituals has been developed for a very long time, enhancing the unity and collaboration of the communities wishing for bounty harvest every year. It is a very valued cultural heritage that these 4 countries share in different forms and versions. And this intangible cultural heritage of tug-of-war ritual has been inscribed on the UNESCO representative list of ICH 5 years ago. So today we are marking the 5th anniversary of this joint inscription on the UNESCO list. I have spent my entire life to develop this tug-of-war rituals. I had my share of happiness and sadness and other moments of fulfillment while transmitting this tug-of-war rituals across Korea. And during the time, I always thought about how to develop and how to find new meanings out of this tug-of-war rituals. And I realized that the essence of this tug of war ritual is not a rope, it is humans. And rope is just a tool or a method that connects the different people. These many countries, they are keeping their and preserving their heritage and transmitting this tug of war rituals and games. So many people have devoted their time and energy in preserving and spreading the tug of war. And my gratitude goes to all those people. Because of the COVID-19, we were not able to meet physically, but we can still see faces of one another on the screen via this online tool. 5 years gave us so much opportunity to identify potentials of a tug of war, and it has also given time to get to know each other. And I believe that for the next 5 or 10 years, we will be able to take this tug of war rituals and games to the next level. And I think it is people who can lead this development of tug of war, and therefore we need your help and more assistance going forward. Our association will take up more initiatives in the future so that we can develop a tug of war further and then transmit these very meaningful rituals and games to more people. Once again, congratulations on the 5th anniversary of the joint inscription in Korea, Vietnam, the Philippines, Cambodia. These 4 countries would be able to have a further development through solidarity and unity. Thank you so much for your attention.
전승단체 연합회
Yes, thank you very much, President Shin Soo-sik from Korea Traditional 줄다리기 Safeguarding Association. I believe that President Shin has mentioned that above all, humanity comes first. Rope is just a medium, but it's all about people. That was a very important comment in his opening remarks. We have many communities struggling to preserve and safeguard this very important and tangible cultural heritage. And I believe that it is important to have everyone join hands to be involved in this lonely fight. And I believe that then we will be able to safeguard these important cultural heritages. So that is all for the opening remarks, and we'd like to conclude the opening session. And because this is the end of the opening ceremony, I believe it's great to have a photo op. So why don't we all turn on our webcam to engage in the commemorative photo op. So please, some big smiles for the photo op. I will chant 1, 2, 3, and then we will take a photo all together. So please face the camera, and a big smile, please. Yes, I believe everybody did smile for the photo op. Yes, thank you very much. So let us now begin session 1. In session 1, we will be listening to presentations of the countries. We'll be going into the progress for the past 5 years. We have Cambodia, Philippines, Korea, and Vietnam, the multinational nomination countries. So in that order, we will be going into a presentation. It would be like a report on the progress after the inscription. So let us now invite our speakers. The very first presentation will be by Cambodia. The speaker is Mr. Sion Sopriet, Director General of Techniques for Cultural Affairs. He also gave us his congratulatory remarks. So he will be giving us a progress report after the inscription in Cambodia.
Please, Sion.
Yes. Okay. So, good afternoon. Please, because this is I would like to, before giving, the presentation on current states of affair, I think it's better to provide general information about the tagging rituals and games in Cambodia. So this is my presentation. I think the Tug of War is the name that is given that is known in English, and it is the common game and play worldwide as a sport, as an entertainment, as a ritual game. In some countries, it is a pure contest of strength between the two teams, where in others, it is a ritual game, which connotes with the social religious significance. It is also played during the specific ceremonial occasions. In Cambodia is one of the countries that it is played as a part of entertainment, but it is played in a specific occasions. Tugging ritual or tug of war itself is known in Khmer as the tieng prot, meaning the pull of the rope or pulling the rope. And the rope itself, it can be made from various kind of forms, types. For example, it made of a type that made of wine here, right here, and sometimes it made from rattan, woven rattan, and sometimes it's simply made from the, like you go to the market and you buy the plastic ropes, and that it can be, and then. And for the preparation itself, for example, when you use the wine rope, it is not that long, so you have to connect it. As you can see in the pictures here. Can you see the pictures here? I think you can see it. These are the ropes that are used. Some are small and then they are interconnected and make it long enough so that many people can participate in the joining. In some process, it is very sophisticated. They make the ropes and they tie it at the end of it with the bamboo so that you can pull it. Like this as the example of the ladies that she's pulling, as showing as the showcase. And in the other cases, unlike in Korea, I've been to Korea joining the tagging rituals and game over there. It was like tons and tons of weight of the ropes itself, making from the rice straw. But in Cambodia, in this case, we have the rattan trees that is used, and it is collected from one of the community, one of the forest nearby the community, the village where they perform the ritual, the tagging rituals and games every year. This is how they are collecting the rattan. If you might not know, rattans can hurt you because they're thorny trees. Like it can be hurt. So this is the villagers before. It take quite some time to. It take quite some time in order to collect it. This is the ceremony itself. It performed in the New Year's, which is in the mid of September. In the mid of April, and they started collecting it a week or so before to make the ropes. So this is the way of collecting. I like that, this is the grandfather, the grandchildren, they come together and then go into the forest and collect all of that. It is the way to show that that is how it is transmitted. By showing you all of these pictures, many pictures are taken after the nomination, after the nomination of the tagging rituals and games. So it is the progress, how it is growing, without explaining the current state of the situation. But the picture I'm showing you, the information itself. So this is how they are making the ropes. The rope that made from rattan, weaving it. They weave them. This is the elder person. He is making the rattan, and this younger one is making the two rattan connected so that it make it long enough to make a rope. This is the rattan that is interconnected. It's about 50 meters or more long. And after one stripe of it has been made, they are taken it and woven it into the bigger one. This is the example of the bigger rattan rope. This is the process of preparing the rope. And this is how big the rope it is. when is the tugging rituals in games in Cambodia is played? It is played, as I mentioned, it's played during the Khmer New Year. Khmer New Year is celebrated in the middle of April, around 13, 14. I think it's about the same time as in Korea when tugging ritual is taking place in April. And it is played during the New Year and during the Chlong Chait. Chlong Chait is one of the specific ritual performance that is associated with rice. It is a ceremony to mark the start of the rice cultivation ceremony. It is very important for the people living in the countryside doing the rice farming. They are believed that if they are not doing the rice, the cultivation, if they are not providing the cultivation, if they are not doing the ceremony, they are forbidden to go to cultivate the rice, as it can be hurt by the snakes or injured while doing the cultivation of the rice. So the ceremony is very important. It's mark of the rice cultivation ceremony. This is the ceremony performing in the common halls in the village, as an example to show you. And where are they? Where the ritual? Sorry, my bad. How they are performed. So at the end of the games itself, the rope is cut off. They have been cut off from like while pulling the ropes. Sometimes the rope cannot be broken by pulling, so they have to cut it. Cutting the rope itself is very important in the sense of ritual. I will tell you. I will explain you later. Here is the rope.
Mr. Safiris, I really apologize for interrupt. There is something kind of technical issue, so the English channel is not working right now. So could you just say rephrase about the 2 slides before? Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And then could you just check the technical one for the streaming, because we cannot hear the English one. So thank you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, so it is just an example showing where they are pulling the ropes, like tugging the rope. So this is at the end of the games, especially the last day of the ritual itself, or especially on the Chlong Chait, when they perform the ritual. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Clearly, yes.
Okay. So at the end of the games, at the end of the rituals, the village elders, especially Acha, the official priest, he will invite the young people to come and pull the rope. That is the final games. It means they pull and they break it. I see many examples, but right now, later on, because I visited many other communities, so the rope is broken. If the rope is not broken, they have to literally cut it so that it can be broken by pulling. I will see you. I will show you the examples of that. Cutting the ropes in Khmer, the expression itself, it's very interesting. It means to takrot in Khmer. It means like you are at the final stage. Like you are passing into another stage. So this is the most significant symbols of this cutting rituals in game. So here they are pulling the rope, and here the rope is too big, and like hundreds of people cannot break it. So they use the knife and cut it, cut it in one stripe, two stripe, so that they can pull and break it. So when the rope is broken, you can see people, fall down and stuff like that. It is quite simple. But when the rope is broken, the game is over, the ritual is finished. So this is the very significant in the sense. And in the games itself, it connotes certain invoking of the rains. So you see males and female, when they are playing one another, they use their buttock touching in one another, like sexual symbolism implications in that case. And this is how they bet. Even the younger, they use their buttock hitting one another. I mean, like that imply the symbolic connotation, sexual connotation, and at the same time, with that act, implying invoking the rains in some communities, especially in Cambodian itself. So the tagging rituals and game, if you are going back into the past, it is somewhat associated with certain Indian myth imported from India. I say imported from India. In Cambodia, the myth of churning of the Milky Ocean, I will show you. You will know that. It is to bring the good, the auspicious object, especially the water of immortality. It means water, like water is very important in that case. So the churning of the Milky Ocean is very popular in ancient Cambodia. And it is not at all surprisingly noted by one of the great scholars on Indian art. He said that like it's not like popular like in Cambodia, and then it ring my bell. Why the Tug of War and then the churning of the Milky Ocean, it is associated because it makes sense in the rice farming communities like Cambodia. So this is the churning, the depiction of churning on the 12th century temples. This is the churning of the 11th century temples. I'm not going into the detail how they churn or how they pull, because there are certain depictions clearly in here. But for the time's sake, I just go briefly on that. So this is from one of the bas-reliefs, the long bas-reliefs of Angkor Wat, 50 long meters, and it's depicting the churning of the Milky Ocean. And the local people these days, when they are visiting the temples, they say that is the churning itself, like that is the Tug of War, so they say in Khmer, in Phuong. So the Tin Phuong itself, for me, in brief, I think it gives many significance in it. First, it is it's very popular in Cambodia, and it is very well known. Everyone knows it. It must be rooted deeply in the society. That is no doubt. And just without further elaboration, it can be dated to the prehistoric times. Like a master from the Federation of Korean Tradition Tugging Rituals and Game. It rooted in some place, and then it spread. It inspired many communities, and I think that is what I also believed in.
And the tagging itself, the breaking in Khmer society, in the tagging ritual in Cambodian society, it is an opening of year, opening from one old year to the one, because it is the celebration in the new year. And the most importantly, for the rice cultivation, it is an opening the rice cultivations. That the old rice cultivation is finished. Now we are starting the new one. And also in that, there are certain ritual acts that calling for the rains. Without further explanation in that, I'm sorry for that, but I have developed somewhere for that presentations. So what about after inscriptions itself? I think after inscriptions of the tagging rituals and games, multinationally, Korean, Cambodians, Korea, Cambodia, Philippines, and Vietnam. First of all, it has been, the collaboration on the safeguarding of intangible cultural heritage in general have been improved very much. Like I thank each CAP for, always take initiative, support and providing necessary support for especially Cambodia. Visibilities, like there are many publications initiated by each CAP, and Cambodia also have some short publications, but in the local language. And I myself and my friend, my colleagues, they also made some public presentations for the students and others. That also the visibilities, communities exchange. We are very unfortunate that this year the communities themselves, they was very, I'm speaking about the Cambodian communities, they were very excited to go to Korea, and then they are preparing their passport and everything ready to go, but COVID hindering us not to go. We are very sorry for that, and very sorry for them, and hope someday we can exchange with the Korean ritual communities. What about the local one? The games itself is very active, as I can see. I can observe more and more communities are coming out, and due to they practice it in their daily life. But now, because of the technology, medias, we can see the many communities that are still playing nationally. The visibility increased, and the support for more communities have been, provided by the local community themselves for the game, for the rituals, and as well as the government. Government not to control, but to take part, initiating, supporting their activities at the local. This is one of the example of the visibilities of the Tug of War. This is the ropes that we prepare, and then the parade of the ropes during Angkor Songkran in Siem Reap. Some people say it might be over commercialized, but this is it is deep down in the blood of the people, and they can love the game, enjoy the game, and at the same time, when after the inscriptions, people are coming out and take prize in the tagging rituals and game. And these are one of the. This is Mr. Go here. I printed out from one of the communities that they we bring, the ministry brought the certificate of the inscription from UNESCO, and then we brought to the communities, and then has one, and then these young people, they have a Facebook. So that they can share, like this. And then I think the Mr. Go's pictures were integrated. It's very lovely to see how, in Korean community, and I hope someday Philippines and also the Vietnam can join us, like a Facebook friends or something, so that we can share the practice of this intangible cultural heritage. In the practice, yes, we show you in 2016, 2018, and 2020 is very unfortunate. We cannot play, because of the pandemic. We cannot go anywhere. But in the communities, people can still, perform certain rituals, play a little bit of the game, so that they continuing the spirits, and also because of they hope that the the games and the ritual itself can bring the prosperities and the happiness to communities. And this is very important for them. And I think like uh, um, Mr. President of the Federation of the Korean Traditional Tagging Rituals and Game, I think that it is connected people, and I believe that it's not only connecting people to people, but it also people to the communities. When for example retains the plant itself, it when it is gone, it is completely gone. So protecting the forest itself can also preserving. And this is one of the tagging ritual communities requesting certain support from the Ministry of Cultures, and be providing support. And now we and the community secure a forest where they can annually and sustainably collect their their wine robes that they can perform the rituals every year. I think for that, I thank you very much, and I hope it makes some sense to all of you. Thank you.
네, 캄보디아의
Yes, thank you very much. That was the presentation by the Director General of Techniques for Cultural Affairs. So once again, he's the Director General of the organization. And so the teapot, in the name is about using a cowhide, for instance, or buffalo, but you can see that the rattan is used quite extensively to make the rope. So he talked about the importance of this ritual and also about the progress and the activities ever since the inscription. Compared to Korea's 줄다리기, I thought that there were many commonalities with regard to this ritual and games. It also had to do with agriculture. It was about a ritual before the cultivation. It was also about asking for rain and also cutting the rope had significance. Yeongsan 줄다리기 and other tug of wars of the communities of Korea have some similar meaning to it. So it was very interesting. Of course, we have a lot of questions, but we have a time constraint, so I will not be able to ask any more questions, and we'll have to move right on to the next presentation.
가보겠습니다.
Now we are moving to the Philippines. Rene Talavera, Head of Cultural Communities and Traditional Art of the Philippines, will deliver a presentation on the Philippines Tug of War games and rituals.
All. In behalf of the Philippines National Commission for Culture and the Arts, I would like to congratulate everyone for this cultural exchange, especially each CUP under the leadership of Director General Kum Gi-hyung and the team of course, Mr. Wonmo Park, as well as our fellow cultural workers. I am thankful to see your faces once again. And despite the pandemic, we were able to meet, albeit in a different manner, in a different platform. So I'm happy to see Mr. Sion from Cambodia and the faces of Mr. Sin from Korea, Mr. Ko, Mr. Ho, and Mr. Kim. We were together last year here in the Philippines. And of course, my good friend, Dr. Lee from Vietnam, and Mr. Tang. Of course, last year was a very memorable meeting. Also from during our activities in Korea, and then we also congratulate those who are able to contribute in this meaningful gathering. So may I present the Philippines Punuk. Do I have to share it, Jin Young?
Mr. Rin, do you want me to do that, or just say if you can do it, it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. You're not ready yet?
I just have a file. Do you want me to share right now?
Okay. So punok is the tagging ritual of the Ifugao in northern Luzon, Philippines. Next slide, please, Chinyong. So in the Philippines, harvest rituals are common, especially among the Ifugao communities, but the performance and practice of the rituals differ or vary according to the specific community where each group dwells. In Hapao, municipality of Hongduan, a distinct harvest ritual is being practiced by the Tuwali group. The ritual complex called Punuk culminates in a tagging contest among the Tuwali groups to determine which groups will have a bountiful harvest and to express gratitude to the deities of the communities. The enactment of Punuk signifies the completion of one agricultural cycle and the beginning of another. After a series of field surveys and meetings with the communities, the Tuwali community, through the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, or NCCA, wished to nominate the Punuk tagging ritual to the UNESCO representative list of ICH of Humanity, together with other convention states parties, the Republic of South Korea, Cambodia, and Vietnam. And in 2015, the tagging rituals and games of the said states parties have been inscribed in the UNESCO list. So next, please, Jin Young. In So prior to this, post-inscription plan has been developed for the creation of educational materials for formal and non-formal education. This is for the education aspect, and the promotion aspect included creation of information materials about Punuk, local and international cultural exchange programs, and for the research and documentation is the updating of the inventory of Punuk, archiving of photos and videos on Punuk, and establishment of a gallery in Ifugao. For the capacity building aspects, it was planned that a training on other related practices such as winemaking, indigenous ritual on animal production, blacksmithing, weaving, traditional irrigation systems, and other activities will be conducted, as well as for the protection of the punuk, a declaration of the punuk site as culturally important site, and then the provision of assistance to preserve the rice terraces. So these are the post-inscription action plan for the Punuk. The Municipal Culture and Arts Council, this is in the municipality of Hongduan, created an executive order to promote and to prepare annual plans on culture and the arts for the safeguarding of the element Punuk. So this executive order organized the council for the particular municipality for this safeguarding. So this is one of the projects of the municipality of the local government unit for the safeguarding of Punuk. Next, please. So the inventory of Punuk is being updated And this is also part of the responsibilities of the state parties to the 2003 convention. And consultations are done with the communities and other stakeholders. So next, please. And in 2019, the Korea-Philippines Research Exchange Program, the Korea-Philippines Research Exchange Program on Tug of War was held August 2019. The each CAP initiated a cultural exchange between the practitioners of tagging rituals and games in South Korea and the Philippines, together with the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, and supported by the municipality of Hongduan and the Ifugao Cultural Heritage Office. Next, please. So the practitioners of Juldarigi of Danjin City were able to witness and participate in some of the elements. Sorry, Jinyang, I'm not done yet. Jinyang, can you please show the previous slide? Another one, please. So the practitioners of Juldarigi of Danjin City were able to, sorry, Jinyang, can you please return to the slide I'm presenting? Jinyang.
Mr. Rene, which pages are you just working on it?
So this is the slide. This is the slide.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. So those who are present here were able to witness and participate in some of the elements involved in the tagging rituals of the Tiwali of Ifugao. Workshop on tagging rituals and games of the Republic of Korea and the Philippines was held and was participated by the community, and a demonstration of the Korean tug of war were held and enjoyed by both of the participants from the community and the practitioners of Juldarigi. And there was also a photo exhibition of the tagging rituals and games of the 4 states parties that joined the multinational nomination, which was displayed during the workshop. Next, please. The Juldarigi group visited the Ifugao provincial government. And next, please. And during the ritual, the punuk, they were able to witness, and actually they were able to participate. It was really a very meaningful cultural exchange for both the Philippines and the practitioners of Juldarigi. So next, please. Jinyang, next, please. So they participated in some of the elements, not just the tagging ritual itself, but the process. And you can see Mr. Park also pulling the rope, participating, and the other side is the group of the Tuwali Ifugao, and then the other side are the Juldarigi group. I just don't know who won during the contest. So they are able to participate. They were able to participate during the tagging ritual, the actual performance of the ritual. The community allowed the practitioners of Juldarigi to join the ritual ceremony. The next, please. It was a very long hike for everyone because the tagging ritual is done in the river where you have to hike to go to the location. So this was the photo exhibit, the exhibit that I've mentioned, and this was the um, this was the research and exchange program for the community. And next slide, please. So members of the Ifugao community were able to learn and understand on the Korean tagging ritual and the tagging rituals of other countries like Cambodia and Vietnam. So it was a community-based cultural exchange done in the Philippines. I would like to show you some of the processes and through a photo collage. I'd like to mention also that this was published in our national newspaper. The exchange was published, highlighting the collaboration of the Philippines and Korea during this cultural exchange, which happened in the country. So, South Korean UNESCO experts joined Ifugao tagging ritual Punuk. This was published after the exchange, and the community members were able, the local community members are able to participate after that in the celebration of the Indigenous Peoples Month, wherein the Ifugao local government representatives were given a chance to participate in the learning with other indigenous groups during the celebration in October. And some of the community members were also given capacity building and were able to learn about the implementation of the 2003 Convention for the Safeguarding of ICH in the Philippines. Next, please. So right now we are working on the publication of learning guides for Punok and Hudhud, and the NCCA is coordinating with the local government of Ifugao and the Ifugao Cultural Heritage Office for the partnership and an agreement for the publication of the learning guide is being forged, which in which the learning guides will be distributed in the schools and libraries in Ifugao, and especially we have schools of living traditions all over the country. So next, please. So we'd like to show a little bit a glimpse of the process of the punok through a photo collage. Thank you, Jin Young, for the assistance. That's the file. Yeah, that's the file. Jin Young, can it be full screen? Can we make it full screen, please? So thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. As you can see, the whole community are active in participating in the activity, and even the children, the small children. The Joldarigi group has witnessed that the whole community is really looking forward for this harvest ritual, and even those who are not not living or residing in the community goes home to participate in this event. So thank you very much for your kind attention.
네, 필리핀의 르네 탈라베라 필리핀 국가문화
So thank you, Ms. Rene Talavera, Head of Cultural Communities and Traditional Art. We are living in a new normal era. This is an unprecedented time, and it is the first time for many of us to hold this forum via online platform, and we just witnessed one of the examples of the challenges, and there was a technical issue, and for that I'd like to ask for your kind understanding. So that was about the Punuk, the Tug of War, in the Huali region of the Philippines. If you look at the cases of Cambodia and the Philippines, then the Cambodia shows Korea in the 1970s and 80s, and the Philippines shows some ancient aspect of the tug of war games, and they are preserving such tradition for a very long time. We really envy that. But come to think of it, decades later, there will be urbanization and more people will leave the countryside to big cities, and it will be more challenging for those countries to preserve the traditional tug of war rituals as it is. And I think this the union of the four countries will make some contribution to preservation of the tug of war rituals in those countries so that they can preserve the original form of these rituals and games. Now I'd like to move on to Korea.
고대영 학예사.
Next, we have curator of Kijishi Chudarigi Museum, Mr. Go Dae-young. Hello, everyone. I am Go Dae-young as introduced.
예, 슬라이드를 보면서 말씀드리도록 하겠습니다.
So let me now use my slides. The tugging rituals and games inscribed in December 2015 was a very meaningful element of Korea. Korea, of course, had many inscriptions. However, this was the very first joint inscription of multiple countries led by Korea that came to fruition. And we also received local submissions to engage in the bottom-up process in selecting the element, which was quite new. Based on 4 years of preparatory work, we prepared for the nomination, and although the schedule was tight, support from ICHCAP and the dedication of countries of the multi-nominations enabled a successful outcome. In Korea, as you've seen, we have a total of 6 elements that were designated. And here you can see that we have intangible cultural assets that were designated on the national level and as well as a local level. Before the inscription, there wasn't much interest in 줄다리기 or tugging rituals and games because support policies were centered on performance and craft work, and as it was noted, it was a community folk tradition, so there wasn't much support. Nevertheless, the 2 nationally designated cultural assets were relatively active, but the 4 local intangible cultural assets, the circumstances were not as desirable. And I believe that Dangjin city government's role was key in this process. Before the nominations, they built a tug of war museum and conducted some survey and research of tug of war. And in 2014, the Korea Traditional 줄다리기 Safeguarding Association was established, which was a very important foundation. And ever since the joint inscription in December 2015, the prominence of 줄다리기 element was greatly strengthened, and diverse support programs were put in place, and the media shed light on the element since its inscription. So there were various events, various support, and you can see here where in the media and in the many outlets we were able to share this information. You can see the case of the Philippines. And under the Cultural Heritage Administration, there is the National Intangible Heritage Center, and they hosted a special exhibition in 2015. And this has actually enhanced the excitement over 줄다리기, and there were also many side events and special exhibitions that took place at the National Intangible Heritage Center. And the very next year, we had this certificate, and we've, of course, commemorated the event. And as you can see here in the picture, there were also performances that were put together under the topic of 줄다리기. There were symposiums that were hosted and demonstration events. So CHA, as well as NIHC, has continued on to provide financial support as well as support in hosting various events and demonstrations. Korea's cultural heritage NGO, the Korea Cultural Heritage Foundation, has also put together publications with Cambodia, Vietnam, the Philippines, as well as Korea. And you can see here, this is a bottle. This is some promotional products that's themed with 줄다리기. My presentation is in Korean. However, the publications you see here is actually also in English so that it can be a good source to promote the traditional tugging rituals and games to the foreigners that are not familiar with this tradition. Dangjin City and ICHCAP and our museum has been putting in a lot of efforts to publish various publications. This is an agglomeration of the research from the experts. And what's interesting here is that this publication includes information from not only the four joint inscription countries, but also Japan, Ukraine, and Thailand. And this has been a very good important opportunity to expand the scope of this element. And as you can see here on the right, we also had children to understand 줄다리기. So these various materials have been proven very helpful to enhance the awareness of this element. In Tangjin City, the Kijisi 줄다리기, there were a lot of activities that were underway, as you can see here in the picture. The Republic of Korea, currently we are a divided nation between the north and south, but through 줄다리기, this indicates our aspirations to reunify the Korean peninsula. Not only that, there were children's books that were published, and in the bottom right, this is Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. There was an exhibition pavilion on 줄다리기. And not only that, the tourists and the participants were able to take part in these experiential programs. And once again, you can see my picture in Central Asia. There was also a survey that was done, and Vietnam visited Tangjin City, and we've tried out 줄다리기 altogether. And they've donated many materials, and we also hosted an academic symposium. So there were many activities during their visit. And as was mentioned by Renee Talavera, with the Philippines, last year we've engaged in various exchange activities. This year with ICCAP, we were intending to have everyone come to Tangjin, all of the four countries, to engage in demonstration events as well as hold a symposium. But due to COVID-19, we weren't able to host the conference, and I hope that we can find a better opportunity in the future after the end of COVID. Korea's various 줄다리기s had in place many programs. In the Yongsan 줄다리기 of Changneung, Gyeongnam, ever since the inscription, they've been engaging in education as well as demonstration events. And in the case of last year, in 2019, Korea's March 1st independence movement of 1919, we've met our centennial of this independence movement. And in Seoul, many citizens came together to commemorate this event, and 줄다리기 was a part of this event. It has brought the citizens, the people of Korea, together by utilizing 줄다리기. In the case of Samcheok, they've built these monuments and many sculptures indicating 줄다리기. And as you can see here on the bottom, in Samcheok, the traditional 줄다리기 was something that was surveyed and investigated, and there were academic symposiums in place to understand the original version of this tradition. And this is the case of Euryong. Euryong had provided a space for demonstrations, and in addition to that, all of these nationally designated and locally designated intangible cultural heritages had many programs that were underway. But I would like to also mention a very important pillar in the transmission and safeguarding of this heritage, which is the Korea Traditional 줄다리기 Safeguarding Association. This association received the support, financial support from CHA as well as Tangjin City, and they are engaging in a number of activities, demonstrations, research, providing materials, workshop, and various educational programs, overseas exchange, are just some of the things that they are doing. And let me go into the details on that. So first of all, this federation or this association is a combination of 6 preservation societies, and they've been hosting these events nationwide. And of course, it's true that these traditional 줄다리기s, they're very much focused on their version. But if we have these collaborative events, we can share one another how we are different, how we are similar. And I believe that these sharing events are very helpful for all of these elements in these different regions. So we, led by the association, host these events. With the inscription of tugging rituals and games, the transmitters and the transmission societies now, of course, have targets. And here, workshops are taking place on an annual basis to enhance capacity and capabilities. Experts are invited to go into ways to develop the 줄다리기 further and the meaning behind the inscription. So with experts and with stakeholders, there are these presentations and workshops and discussions. Research survey is also quite active in this domain. We have Milyang 줄다리기, for instance, where the research survey report was published. And this year, we are focused on the 남의 선구 줄긋기 survey, and the report will come out soon enough. And we have teaching materials, and there's also photo exhibitions of these various different traditional 줄다리기s to showcase this to the citizens as well as foreigners. And this is titled Furnish Information. With the association at the center, it is, of course, important to share the information of 줄다리기 and also share this information with other countries around the world. In Korea, what's quite unique is that in our English textbook, 줄다리기 is cited as an example. It's quite interesting. Here, you see the case of the Philippines, their tug of war, and the Cambodian and the Vietnamese tug of war. This textbook indicates the various versions of 줄다리기 around the world, which of course is about the importance of safeguarding the value of intangible cultural heritage. And in English education of Korea, this is an example that is used to promote the students' English proficiency. Quite interesting. And with Vietnam and with the Philippines, there were these overseas exchange events. So I've ran down the progress ever since the inscription. And the national government, local government, the Korea Cultural Heritage Foundation, and the 6 transmission societies are all stakeholders, and the association, of course, or what we call the union, are all in this together. And for the past 5 years, there were many programs and activities, as I have already mentioned. In the future, in the long run, it will be important for us to be very faithful to this joint inscription where overseas exchanges and programs are put together. And not only that, it's also very important to make sure that the transmission societies benefit from this inscription as well as from this element. And not only that, the transmitters and the relevant communities also need to be the major agents to work on capacity building and also find ways to transmit this element in a better fashion. Thank you very much for your attention.
네, 고대영 한국
Yes, that was a presentation by the curator of 기지시 줄다리기 Museum, Mr. Ko Dae-young. The association consists of 6 preservation societies, and he talked about the various programs and activities. And what was quite interesting was that there were a lot of efforts to expand the scope of this element. So not only in Asia, but I hope that 줄다리기 as a universal ritual and game can be shared with the people around the world. Culture, in some sense, can be and is a cluster if we have transmitters. Well, of course, that's great, but that's not enough. We also need the support from the national government, local government, the academia, as well as experts. And Mr. Ko Dae-young has been doing many things. He went to Vietnam as well as the Philippines, and he showed how strong Korean men can be. And thank you very much. And I would like to ask for more from you in the future.
And description of the elements themselves, but I would like to present. Sorry, my echo. So I would like to present some of the result, the findings that our center has done for the past month in 4 communities in Vietnam. So as you know that in Vietnam, I would like to share my screen so that you can see my PowerPoints. Okay, so all right, so there are 6 communities of tugging ritual and games in Vietnam that were nominated into the multinational nomination that was inscribed on the UNESCO list. So they are the Kéo Mỏ bamboo tugging of Xuân Lai village in Hanoi city. Another village in Hanoi also do the tugging, but they are a different type called seated Kéo Con Ngồi in Thạch Màn, also in Hanoi. We have another village in Vĩnh Phúc province, about 40 kilometers from from Hanoi, northwest Hanoi. We call Keosong. It's rattan tugging. So they use the cord as a rattan to pull. And the another one from Bắc Ninh province is the also a bamboo tugging. So they use a bamboo to weave up into a different shape, and they call it a kelko. It's very different names and very diverse, but the general rules of the games are very similar. But most importantly, most of these elements are well associated with the ritual ceremonies during the village festival. So they takes place every year. We have another two communities of minority ethnics in the northeast of Vietnam, in Lào Cai, also in the nomination. It is the Thai community we call Kéo Co and the Giấy. They have a very well-known spring festival. So in which they also beg for the good harvest, and they carry out ritual ceremonies, and then the game came after that. So the general characteristics of the rituals and games of tugging, they always in Vietnam. I believe that all of the tugging games, the rituals take place on land, not in water. Interestingly, in like in the Philippines, and if they practice at a certain time of the year, for example, mainly during the village festival. And they are not just competitions. They are closely and mainly dedicated to the gods, and they are part of the ritual ceremony. So they have implications, and they have a lot of meanings other than just the competition to lose or to win. So the set out of the results of the tugging are also agreed upon before the ceremonies as a belief of of many communities. So I will not go into that, but if you look into that, it's very interesting. And also in the common goals of these elements are to represent the strength, the solidarity, and to close ties among the communities. So back to my work. Last month, we were able to go to 4 communities around Hanoi. The first is the one in Son Lai, Sóc Sơn district, the Kéo Mỏ bamboo tugging ritual game. The second one is the seated tugging of Thạch Bàn in Long Biên, the one that traveled to Korea last year for exchange with the Danjin city in the festival. And the third one is the Keosong. Keosong is the rattan tugging of Pyeongchang village, township actually, is in Vĩnh Phúc province. And another one is the fourth one is the one in Bắc Ninh province, is the bamboo tugging. So we went to the village. It's not the time. Sorry, something come up with on my screen. Okay, sorry. Our main methods of survey or is a community-based research. We went to meet, going to the community to meet the community leaders, members of the tugging communities to interview, and we also used video recording. We also try to collect the visual data, photos and videos recorded by the communities. And we focus on the reflection of the community, especially different voices, and we looking for a diverse range of opinions. But it was the limitation of this is that we have very limited time, because we have only 1 month, and it was we had to travel to four places. So there are limitations in the reports, and we need to get improved. So the findings, I have preliminarily grouped into several items. The first is that we observed that after the 5 years of the UNESCO inscription, we have seen that most of the villages and communities have better improved viability and visibility of the element. So the elements became more popular. People know much more about the tugging, not just a game like the Tug of War, but it's also ritual. And we also see that it's the element is practiced constantly, uh, and more people coming from outside the communities. But unfortunately, by the end of last year and early this year, ran into the pandemic, and we have social distancing in March. So, but unfortunately, that the most of the village festivals took place during the lunar calendar, the first month of the lunar year. So, most of the villages were not affected. Only one village in March festival. It was a Chanvu. It's a seated tugging in Hanoi. Was suspended because of the social distancing. Otherwise, all of the villages or the festivals are practiced annually. Um, we also have seen that the inscription of the tugging on the UNESCO list has brought to the local people greater pride, motivation, and enthusiasm in safeguarding in their cultural values. So this is also a quote that we learned from one of the leaders of the community, Mr. Ngô Quang Khai from Long Biên. Also in Hương Canh, we can sense the same atmosphere that the rattan tugging is regularly practiced once a year, but they believe that it will never be lost. So that gave us a lot of confidence in that the elements really have strong viability. When we went to the Hữu village in Bắc Ninh province, the same that before the game, as always, the game requires a large number of practitioners, like from 80 to 100 participants at one time. And normally they have conventions that require, they are strictly village boys, and they have many different criteria. But it was not in the past. It was not so easy to mobilize that many participants. But when the tugging ritual and games were inscribed, so everyone in the village was so excited, and they were more proud, and have become and they unanimously participated in themselves into the village, because they. So that is something really good from the inscription. Also, the inscription also brought about strengthened awareness of their cultural beliefs. Uh, the rules of selection of the participants, the ritual ceremony proceedings, and traditional ways to set out the results of the tugging game were also respected and maintained by the communities, and they were very proud of that. And also, they believe that many of the young people are now more interested in learning to create or to prepare the materials for tugging. So, but one thing is that although they are opening. The elders are very willing to transmit the skills to create the different uh, tools, especially the cord or the rope. For example, in Hữu they use the bamboo to make a frame and the two sides. But the two sides of the bamboo frames are connected with what they call the spirals, uh, bamboo flower, something like that. And it needs a lot of skill and some knowledge to do it. And also, the element has improved and heightened visibility. So, for example, in Soksan, before the UNESCO inscription in 2015, only the villagers participate in the festival. But now they have a lot of visitors from outside the village to come to join them in the festival. Also in Long Biên, the seated tugging community they have made several exchanges and performances in and outside Hanoi, and also beyond the country. For example, in 2019, 30 members of the community traveled to Korea to exchange with the Tugging communities in Danjin City in Korea. Yeah. And we have also observed that in all of the communities, there's a sign, it's a good sign of transmission environment that is very open and very enabling. So the elders are willing to pass on the skills, and as long as the element is practiced during the festivals and the villagers participate, so all the skills and knowledge are taught on the spot, like hands-on teaching. And in Hương Canh, Vĩnh Phúc, Mr. Hùng is the leader of the team. He said that it's very easy for now for the Hương Canh to recruit people, young people to come in and to learn and to learn how to do tug, because they're gonna each year they recruit about 10 to 15 young people, and then they put them in among the experienced practitioners, so they can learn each other. From the younger can learn from the oldest. Yeah. And one big change, I think, that within the communities, they are taking proactive action in trying to introduce and to integrate the element into formal education. This is a good sign. For example, in Long Biên, in Trấn Vũ Temple, the community asked us, the Center for Research, to prepare a set of material in order to give the students guidance and also give them information when they come to visit the temple. As well, Mr. Kai is also a very active person. He tried to talk to the people in the management of education and also culture to try to. He said it took him 2 years or 3 years to try and convince them to trying to create an overall program for the schools to try to bring the schools into many different temples and sites within the district. So Trấn Vũ is part of the program. And now if you come to the temple, you see a calendar with exact dates and exact school on the list. And whenever one school come, and they know exact time to receive them and what to do. So it's very convenient. So I think that's one of the big change of in terms of formal education of a heritage. In Hieu Chap village, which is least known, actually we were not actually involved in the preparation of the nomination of the file in concern with the village. But one of many of my friends was preparing the national nomination, and we found that although the village has received not much interest or attention from the management, but they were trying to increase their visibility by trying to collaborate with different schools, to trying to come to schools and to organize the Tugging festival for the students, but they use their own traditional conventions and rules so that the student can learn, understand about the values of the elements. So everyone has endured the impacts of the COVID pandemic. So social distancing took place in March, and as I mentioned that the seated tugging was suspended, but the bamboo tugging in Solai and rattan tugging in Hương Canh were luckier. So the festivals happened a few weeks before the social distancing, so they were very happy. so not much of impact. So but we have to think about in the end of the year and then the coming new year. So they were thinking of different ways to different circumstances, but overall they what they were told was to try to obey or to comply the government's policy um, in trying to drive prevention of the COVID, but also to try to make it more flexible. That because they have to ensure all the ritual ceremonies are conducted within the cultural space, while ensuring not to provoke congregation of people that you create a lot of risks. Yeah. So and one of we didn't do this survey, but we have observed that the past couple of years that we have seen positive change in the management and research and also in the sectors, government sectors. The other stakeholders who support in the policy on the research and also the NGOs, we have seen a shift of a new generation of young leaders in different institutions and agencies. For example, for the Department of Cultural Heritage, now we have, to our impression, that we have really, really young, energetic, and listening leader, and very well concerned about the heritage, cultural heritage in general. You also know about the also director of the National Institute for Culture of Arts. He is also very young and very open and very creative. And I think it's, they are potentially the very important stakeholders and partners in the future for collaboration in safeguarding ICH. Also, of course, the local authorities in Hanoi, Bắc Ninh, and Vĩnh Phúc provinces are very important, and they have tried every effort to try to help the communities. But again, it's the issue of resources and shortage of competent personnel to take care of this. So when we went to the Bắc Ninh province, they have a lot of policy. Incentive policy for different ICH. For example, they have a very well-known program for one horse singing. They they provide funding, the technical support to different clubs, but for the tugging, there's nothing. That's a very sad thing. So when we talked to the people at the cultural authority of the province, we agree that there would be some change and some more intention in the incentive policy for the people in the tugging or in similar ICH domain. As well, we also see that the nowadays in Vietnam we have more NGOs and clubs and networks more engaged in the safeguarding of cultural heritage in general and ICH in particular, and it can vary from expedition centers like CCH, or even just a non-profit, or maybe just an art group. They can work and they can give voice and can give support, advocacy to the different issues, and we think these are very important actors in order to build the awareness of the public in general. We would also by this on the occasion, we'd like to inform you that in Vietnam, by the end of this month, on the 26th December, hopefully everything is convenient and nothing happened. I mean, the pandemic is not around. So we're going to organize a national day of Tugging heritage, the first one. The events initiated by the Vietnam Association of Cultural Heritage. This is my umbrella organization. So CCH is the direct agency to try to implement this event. And we will invite at least 6 communities to come to the Trấn Vũ Temple in Long Biên to first in the morning we have a seminar, in the afternoon we have an exchange and performances, just for fun. But important thing is that start the first step in establishing a network of Tugging communities in Vietnam. So we hope that this is going to be an important step to put to try to promote people interest, because we realized that when we went to the communities, there are a whole lot of needs of exchange and communication among the communities, because they really want to go to meet people who practice the similar elements of heritage, and they want to learn from others, and so they want to travel, just sometimes just for a very simple reason. So we have also found out that we during our research we just found that we have more communities of Tugging than we than we know officially. So we just found out one village in Phú Xuyên district right in Hanoi. They also practice Tugging, and a really big community. And also in Hòa Lan in Vĩnh Phúc province, also another Tugging, Rattan Tugging. So we have also in Thái Nguyên province, also we have at least 3 more communities to come. So we plan to conduct, we're trying to mobilize the resource and to conduct a more comprehensive, hopefully, an inventory of the Tugging in Vietnam, and to try and perhaps in the future to try to update the inventory of the national list, and hopefully the multinational nomination, if you are interested. And so we have, I have brought out a lot of some important challenges towards the safeguarding of Tugging in Vietnam. First of all is that because Tugging games and rituals are now more popular and more people coming into the festival, so even arena, a large arena that used to accommodate like 7,000 to 10,000 people, still a narrow, small space. And so also in other, for example, in Xuân Lai, we've seen that the temple has now under endangered status because all the wooden structure got ruined and very, very dangerous. But again, if you look into the interest of young people, it's really a real concern for the elder or the master practitioners that it's very difficult for them to find to hunt for skilled and committed successor of the practitioner. One challenge is that the scarcity of traditional materials, for example, rattan. Rattan has become now more scarce in Vietnam. They have to go before, the people in Long Biên, about 40, 50 years ago, they were able to go to like not too far from here to buy a cord. But now they have to order far away up in the mountain in Hoàng Linh Sơn. It's close to the border of China. And sometimes they have to ask someone who knows well in Laos to purchase. So it's a real thing. Also, again, the lack of incentive for master practitioners, as I mentioned before about the Tugging. So although the government has the policy, but the realization of these policies still, need a lot of time, and so needs actually a push. So we would look into this, and we see if we make recommendations for the government to some kind of support, and just to see how it come up with. And again, the real needs for exchange and networking with other communities. So these are very important points that I would like to point out. So that's pretty much what I have presented. So if you have any questions in the end, please go ahead. Yeah, if Dr. Lee and Zoom, my colleagues here, if they have any input or add-ins, so yeah, thank you very much for listening.
네, 베트남의 웅엔 둑탕
Well, that was a presentation delivered by Nguyen Du Tan, Director of Center for Research and Promotion of Cultural Heritage. I was able to realize that there are various types of tug of war in Vietnam. There were 6 types. And the common material is rattan, bamboo, and there's also a sitting tug of war. They were very different from that of Korea, and it was very interesting. And he also mentioned the sourcing of materials are challenging these days. And in Korea as well, getting straw, the materials for the rope is very difficult. But we can just grow straw because it is coming from rice, but rattan will be more hard to obtain. And that is a common challenge that we are facing right now. And Mr. Duc Tang also mentioned the virtuous cycle of the inscription. And what was very impressive was that the more participation and the efforts to widen the participation of young generations. And the participation of young generation will brighten the future of the transmission of tug of war in Vietnam. And it has been 5 years since we succeeded in joint inscription on a UNESCO list, and we heard from the cases. We heard some cases from Korea, Cambodia, the Philippines, and Vietnam. During session 1, we were able to see the positive outcomes and impacts of the joint inscription. But when there is light, there is always shadow that accompanies the light. So there can be some parts that we are neglecting or that we are just missing out on after the inscription so that we can improve our efforts going forward. My gratitude goes to all the speakers of session 1, Mr. Sion Sopearis, Mr. Rene Talavera, Mr. Go De-young, and Mr. Nguyen Duc Tang. Thank you for your contribution to session 1. And this brings us to the end of session 1. Now we'd like to move on to session 2, but before starting session 2, we'd like to watch congratulatory videos from participating countries. And we have 6 video clips from the groups involved in this industry. Let us watch the videos.
Rice terraces of the Philippine Cordilleras. First and foremost, I wish to thank UNESCO for successfully inscribing collectively the tugging rituals and games in Cambodia, Vietnam, South Korea, and the Philippines as included in the UNESCO representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. We hope and pray for more cultural promotions and academic exchanges in the future, especially when this present pandemic will slow down. Happy 5th anniversary! Thank you and God bless us all.
안녕하세요. 국가무형문화재 제26호
Good day. I am the president of the Preservation Society of Yeongsan Juldarigi National Intangible Cultural Heritage number 26. My name is Chang Geupje, the Juldarigi of 2 designated national organizations and 4 designated provincial organizations, which are the representative tugging ritual of Korea, was the 18th element in Korea to be inscribed on UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity list. And as a transmitter of Juldarigi with great affection towards folk tradition, I would like to thank you for your efforts and congratulations on the 5th anniversary of the UNESCO joint inscription. I would like to wish the Korea Traditional Juldarigi Safeguarding Association, composed of 6 organizations, great success. Thank you.
On behalf of KGC Tug of War Safeguarding Association, congratulations on the 5th anniversary of the joint inscription on the UNESCO representative list of the ICH of humanity. We will work hard to make tug of war as global game. Go Tug of War.
Good day. I am Choi Jong-young, President of the Samcheok Kiji Juldarigi Preservation Society. I would like to congratulate the 5th anniversary of the joint inscription of Juldarigi to UNESCO's list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity, and my thanks go to the staff at National Intangible Heritage Center and President Shin Soo-sik and executives of Korea Traditional Juldarigi Safeguarding Association for their unswerving effort. I will also do my best so that the association is full of energy as well as hope. Thank you very much.
Good day, I am Park Jong-wook, head of Khmer Kejul Danggegi Safeguarding Association. Congratulations on the 5th anniversary of the joint inscription on the UNESCO ICH list, and I hope the traditional Tug of War Safeguarding Association of Korea can continue to have exchanges and grow and thrive going forward.
Nhân kỷ niệm 5 năm ngày thành lập, kỷ niệm UNESCO công nhận kéo co đa quốc gia của Việt Nam, Hàn Quốc, Campuchia, Philippines. Chúng tôi, cộng đồng kéo co của Việt Nam, xin chúc mừng nhân ngày kỷ niệm quốc tế. Đội kéo co của Việt Nam xin chúc mừng. Xin chúc mừng. Chúc mừng. Chúc mừng. Chúc mừng.
네.
Wow, that was very good to watch. We've just watched very friendly faces. So it would have been better if we had gathered in just one place physically, but because of the COVID-19 or unfortunate circumstance, this is the best alternative. Now, we'd like to move on to session 2. In session 1, we had some briefs about the 5-year progress of 4 countries, but in session 2, we'd like to talk about the past, present, and the future of the Tug of War in the 4 countries. So Tug of War has walked on a very good path to be inscribed at UNESCO. Then what about its future? Ho Yong-ho, professor of Korea National University of Arts, will give us some direction, future direction for Tug of War. And there is this strong commitment across the world and to be inscribed in the UNESCO. And in Korea, Professor Ho Yong-ho was one of the strongest advocates of the UNESCO inscription. He has been very active in this domain, and he even published a book. So he will share with us his strong insight in the UNESCO inscription. Now I'd like to give the floor to Professor Ho. As was just introduced, my name is Ho Yong-ho, and I'm working at Korea National University of Arts. And, I've just uploaded my slides, and I will spend the next 20 minutes to give you some recollections and outlook for the Tug of War. So this is all about the past and the future of the Tug of War. Sorry to interrupt. Professor, please make it full screen. Thank you. So we've heard the reports from 4 countries. Tug of War communities, they are building capacity, producing education materials. So I would just skip the overlapping parts and focus on the areas that have not been mentioned so far. My presentation consists of 6 parts. When preparing this presentation, I came to think why I started the research about this tug of war.
기회가 있었습니다. 해서 그 부분에 대해서 간단하게
So I will briefly talk about why I came to conduct research in this domain, and in the second part, doubt and challenge. In 2012, we started this initiative to be inscribed on the UNESCO representative list. And at the initial part of the journey, we had some doubts and challenges, and I will share some information about the initial part of that journey. And in the third part, patience and consideration, starting from 2012 and 2015, we had some many ups and downs. And about the fourth part is solidarity in exchange. And that part would explain what happened after the joint inscription, and especially what has been noticeable after the inscription. And the fifth part, future tasks and outlook. In this fifth part, I will talk about what kind of challenges or initiatives that should be taken upon by the 4 countries. And the last part is, of course, about conclusion. So the first part is about how I came into this tug of war domain. In Korea, in the early 1980s or mid-1980s, college students, young generations, they participated in transmission of tug of war games. And I think that on the university campus, tug of war games were performed, and in the college festivals where thousands and tens of thousands of students flock, tug of war games were performed. And even now, this tradition, it continues, even though the scale has been going down. So when I look back at those years in the early 1980s and in the mid 1980s, I was one of those college students who participated in the tug of war games. I was just a mere participant at first, and I moved up the ladder of this tug of war hierarchy. I planned, I participated in the preparation process, and then I organized the tug of war games during the last years of my university. So I looked back at those years in my college and found one of the pictures shot in those days. This picture was taken 30 years ago, and I just took some time to take a photo with my friend while preparing the tug of war games the day after. So this modern day tug of war games started in Korea University in the 1980s. And that tradition of this university continues, especially in Ewha Women's University, as you can see from the picture on the right side. So students at Ewha Women's University, they still do this gigantic rope. They use this gigantic rope to do this tug of war. They just tug the rope, and then after the game is over, they burn off this rope, continuing this very proud tradition. I think one of the biggest reasons why I conduct research on tug of war is because this experience I had during my college days. So let me look back at the past 5 years after the joint inscription at a UNESCO representative list. Around 2012, we started this effort to be inscribed at UNESCO. So this is our effort 5 years before the joint inscription. The KGC, 줄다리기 Safeguarding Association was the first one that received our proposal about the joint inscription, and 5 other Tug of War safeguarding associations also joined this drive to start our effort for inscription in earnest. But the reaction from the Tug of War communities wasn't that so positive at first. Some people, they just expressed concern that we are just rushing this decision and we need more time to take research on Tug of War current status. These experts, they told us that there are so many different versions of Tug of War across country, and we need to have a deep down on this Tug of War characteristics across the Korea. And after having this exhaustive study, we should start our conversation about a UNESCO inscription. So they were very skeptical and very doubtful about our effort to be inscribed at UNESCO that started in 2012. And there were other challenges. When we first started this discussion in 2012, there was this idea about joint inscription, that we have to be inscribed with other countries. But this decision about joint inscription was met with some oppositions and challenges, because one of the strongest candidates was China, but in contrast to its very rich historical records, transmission effort was too weak in China, and there was not so much of the left when it comes to Tug of War in China. And another candidate for joint inscription, which is Japan, was not so willing to participate in this effort. But countries in Southeast Asia were, in comparison, more active. Cambodia, Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam, these countries were more proactive. And while having discussion with these countries, from the perspective of the Korean people, it was very surprising to see the differences between Tug of War in Korea and between the Tug of War of these Southeast Asian countries. The differences were much more and bigger than expected. And because of that, there was this suspicion, and there was these unexpected challenges in our effort to be inscribed at the UNESCO representative list. But we persevered, and we tried to listen to each other and try to reflect these different opinions in the process. We didn't give up, and we continued our efforts for joint inscription. And especially in 2013, we succeeded in establishing the union of the Tug of War safeguarding associations across the country. As you can see from the picture, we had these safeguarding associations formed by the national government and formed by the local authorities. And there was this unconscious hierarchy between these associations. And we tried to abolish these hierarchies between the different safeguarding associations so that they can be gathered in one place and discuss this issue in earnest. And after we abolishing the hierarchy in their mindset, the effort for joint inscription started on a full scale. Philippines, Cambodia, and Vietnam, these 3 countries joined the drive of Korea. And with the three countries, we focus on going beyond the national boundaries. And these four countries started this joint initiative of spreading the value of tug of war across the globe. Tug of war in Cambodia, the Philippines, Korea, Vietnam, they all have different characteristics and different values. And these should be shared with people across the world. In UNESCO, Inscription on UNESCO was the first step and a very effective step to spreading the value of tug of war games in these four countries. And as you well know, our efforts paid off. So in December 2015, at the UNESCO conference held in Namibia, tug of war rituals and games were inscribed at the UNESCO representative list of ICH of humanity. And after this multinational inscription, these four countries made various efforts separately and together. And there was this effort to overcome the suspicion and concern many people expressed about joint inscription. Some people expressed criticism and concern about this drive for joint inscription. They said that how the tug of war games in four countries are the same or are different. What is the criteria? And as you can see, there are four countries: Vietnam, Cambodia, the Philippines, and Korea. These four countries are so different from one another, and their tug of war games are so different. But grouping them as one category and grouping them for joint inscription is going too many extra miles to achieve the goal. So it is a far stretch to have these four countries in one group. That was the criticism expressed by some experts. And another concern was about the geographical distance. These four countries are far away from each other in terms of geography, and after joint inscription, will they be active in having exchanges and collaboration and forming solidarity? That was another concern expressed by experts. But after 4 years, we realized that those concerns were just disappeared. And we now realize those concerns were overblown because the tug of war games and rituals were recognized highly after the joint inscription. They gained visibility and vitality. And after joint inscription, tug of war rituals and games were transmitted, studied, recorded, documented, and spread further. And now we have more interest generally in the tug of war rituals and games. So joint inscription had a positive impacts. So these two concerns were just addressed after the joint inscription. That is a very positive outcome. And we had so many exchanges after joint inscription to address and reduce the concerns. We had many exchanges in Korea. We invited the people in 4 countries to Korea, and based on the workshop, we also went to those countries to have a direct experience. We had exchange with the Philippines, and we also had exchanges with Vietnam. Unfortunately, as for Cambodia, we had the joint study, and we have prepared for the future exchange with Cambodia, but because of this pandemic situation, the exchange event was canceled, and I hope that we will have an opportunity for further exchange with Cambodia next year or the year after that. Last year, I was also involved in the exchange, and I went to the Philippines to watch the Tug of War in the Philippines, and I was just so overwhelmed to see the vitality of the Tug of War in the Philippines. The community was very actively participating in Tug of War, and Tug of War game itself has so much excitement and fun, and it was a great opportunity for me to put Korea's traditional Tug of War games in perspectives. And I also went to Vietnam to do field research and do interviews, and I watched this sedentary Tug of War in Vietnam, and they also had so much vitality, energy, and strong will of participation. It is very pleasantly surprising to see such a vitality. And as for Cambodia, I also took some research and watched the videos to know more about Cambodia's Tug of War. And those research activities taught me that these four countries have different characteristics and distinct value, and they deserve to be shared with the world. This rope can be one medium, and this one medium can unite so many different people. It can unite the people of the world, and this Tug of War games convey the values that can be shared across the world. And this realization has just addressed most of the concerns expressed in the early days of the effort for joint inscription. But still, we have a long way to go. In what way they can be seen the same, or they should be seen as different? What are similarities and what are differences? Should similarities come first, or differences should be highlighted? And what are the criteria to define similarities and differences between the four countries? Defining the criteria for intangible cultural heritage is challenging, and it is not just the Tug of War. Other intangible cultural heritages are very difficult to define. The criteria for similarity and difference is a very challenging part. No country and no ICH is an exception. Every ICH listed on the UNESCO representative list would have such difficulty, so I think this is a topic for discussion that should be raised on the UNESCO level. So I've shared the history before 2015 and 4 years after 2015. Now we have to talk about the future after 2020. And I think the values of Tug of War are as follows. Tug of War uses these common materials like a straw, rattan, and the wood. They are just the common materials that you can find in your daily lives traditionally. So you can use these daily materials in a very creative manner, and you make rope with these common materials. That is the one value of Tug of War. And Tug of War is a very official ritual, but it is also a very fun game. So it is both a ritual and a play. Since it has these two elements, it is a very unique cultural heritage. And in the entire process of Tug of War, what is most important is doing this together. Not just the players, the spectators, and those in the preparation, involved in the preparation process. these people are all united in Tug of War games. So this is a very exciting, fun game that unites people together. So Tug of War starts with a very trivial materials like the straw and the rattan that are scattered in our surrounding environment, and it involves many people in the communities, and then it forms solidarity between the people, and it has this essence of the wisdom that our ancestors have acquired throughout the years. And I think this is the core value that Tug of War ritual conveys to practitioners and the people of these four countries. And we have to share this value with the world. And to make that possible, I think we have to achieve these four tasks. First one is that we have to inscribe the Tug of War as best practices. The solidarity efforts, the efforts for more visibility, and the efforts for cultural diversity and creativity, and the efforts for transmission, education, and spreading of this practice, all of these have to be inscribed on the UNESCO representative list of ICH of Humanity Best Practices list. The efforts for best practice list should be started now, 5 years after the joint inscription. And the second task is that we have to include more countries in this inscription. Right now, there are 6 Tug of War associations included in the inscription, and within Korea, we need to have more associations participating in this inscription, because we have more Tug of War associations in other regions, and we need to make effort to include them in this UNESCO inscription. And not just Korea. And Vietnam also mentioned they can include 3 more communities in the inscription during the presentation. And Cambodia can find more communities, the Philippines as well. They can find more Tug of War communities and associations, and then they have to include them in the inscription. Korea needs to conduct some survey, exhaustive survey on Tug of War practices in Korea. Some practices may have disappeared. Therefore, we need to conduct very thorough and exhaustive study. This is a map based on this survey done in the 1930s. So we need a new map. We need a new version based on this new exhaustive study. After completing an exhaustive study, we have to complete a new map, and based on the survey results, we need to have a Tug of War encyclopedia. So that is my suggestion. And this scale up of inscription and exhaustive study should be also expanded to other countries so that it can cover all countries across the world. So global study and global efforts to include more countries on the UNESCO inscription of Tug of War rituals and games is necessary. We need to scale up and include more countries and more associations in our inscription. And I think this expansion and scale up would be as challenging as our effort for joint inscription itself. And just one association or one group, one country would not be enough. We need collective efforts to make this possible. But after watching and listening to the presentations today, I become more convinced that we can do this together. Of course, the 5 years were very challenging, and if we included the 5 years of preparation, it is 10 years in total. But we've achieved this very overwhelming challenge already. We succeeded in a joint inscription, even though we still have a lot way to go, and the future challenges are just difficult as the past ones. There can be another COVID, and there can be another unexpected challenge like COVID. But I believe that our community can continue our effort and can achieve all those future goals. This expansion of a joint inscription, exhaustive study, and the cultural training and publishing of relevant materials. All of these tasks can be done. These tasks were so difficult, so they have not been done so far. But if we can just join our efforts together, and if all the experts can come together, then I think these tasks can be doable, because our experts are capable, and they have the capacity to do this. So we have to come together once again and to take up these challenges as well. Thank you so much for your attention.
네, 허용호 한국예술종합학
Yes, Professor Ho Young-ho from Korea National University of Arts has given us a presentation on retrospection and prospect of tugging rituals and games.
등재하느라 힘들여서
So we focused too much energy on joint inscription, so we didn't have time to have in-depth study and discussion about in what way these four countries are the same or different. She pointed out this part that we've neglected so far, and he laid out the future challenges for all of us. The first one is that we have to be inscribed on the best practices of UNESCO, and then we have to expand the scope of participating countries on this joint inscription. Korea, Vietnam, and the other countries, they have to find other associations of Tug of War and have to include them in a joint inscription. And the third task is about exhaustive study and research. By having exhaustive study, we have to make this transmission map, and then we publish encyclopedia to build an archive of Tug of War. So these are the main points of his presentation, and it brings us to the end of session 2, Tug of War, Recollection and Outlook. Well, we were supposed to have time to share our ideas and have discussions together, but because our schedule was packed, we don't have time for further discussion. So let me move on to the last part of today's event. So there was this video about Vietnam's Tug of War, and we'd like to watch a video about how they prepared This is another video made by Vietnam that explains the video making process.
Khi mà chị Lý về làm việc bên cạnh thì về làm việc với đền Trần Vũ, và chính từ đó thì cái cây song mà nếu được ở Hoàng Liên Sơn về thì trong lễ hội của chúng ta thì cũng là chính các nguồn từ chị Lý, và chính ở đây là người của các bác ở địa phương đây cũng đã giúp cho đền Trần Vũ là mua được cái cây song để thực hiện lại cái nghi thức lễ kéo co của đền Trần Vũ được thực hiện theo đúng các phong tục tập quán từ ngày xưa.
Là nhưng mà đấy là người ta động viên bên người nào vậy?
Ba người,
có 4 người trụ xong ở dưới giường thôi là cũng như sới như thế này, nhưng mà chỉ có khác cái mỗi là chúng được thẳng lừ luôn.
Vâng, đây có
Nhưng mà cũng có cái vươn bậc lên này.
Vâng.
Bục bệ kéo nó cao lên, nó nổi lên thì ở dưới này nhìn lên trên được.
Dưới đây đừng
Vâng. Chứ nó không trúng thế này. Mà cái bậc đó thì là bằng mặt đất này, xong nó xây cái
đây là trên nhìn
cao
xuống
lên.
mà ở dưới thì dưới nhìn lên.
Vâng, tức là mình nhìn lên trên. Còn đây là trên nhìn xuống. Trên ở đấy thì dưới này nhìn lên.
Đấy, có thế này thì mình mới hiểu được cái rất là kéo nhưng mà và hình thức là nó khác nhau một tí.
Cái
thân này 7.000 rồi mà chả có chỗ đứng.
Không có chỗ đứng.
Chân cả chợ rồi cả đây.
Nói chung là các cái lúc mà có tổ chức cái này thì các khu vực này kín dày đặc luôn.
Công an dẹp ốm không.
Vâng. Không thua thắng là 5 phút là hòa. Các chống là hòa. Nhưng mà mỗi một đội đều phải kéo 3 hiệp.
Nhưng mà hết hiệp có đổi bên không?
Có đổi chứ. Hết hiệp đổi bên.
Thì phải đổi cả khán giả.
Không, khán giả không phải đổi. Khán giả thì đều.
Đây mỗi một trận kéo 9 hiệp. Mà mỗi một đội phải kéo 9 lần.
Vâng.
Vòng tròn một lượt.
Vòng tròn một lượt mà. Bởi vì cả
mỗi một trận đến 3 hiệp. Một trận 3 hiệp thì vòng tròn là 9. 3 ngày 9 trận.
23. 82 24.
8224. Thế đọc lại nhá.
Là hai người đạp chân. Có tên là đây nha.
Đây là Khải ạ.
0913 bao nhiêu?
23.
Khải Hà Nội hay sao?
82 24.
Và cái Khải kéo co Long Biên là
Rồi 9773.
Rồi biết rồi.
9773. Vâng, rồi tên là Hường đúng không? Rồi. Cái năm ngoái là đi sang bên Hàn Quốc thì sao là mình kỷ niệm luôn cho nó cái bảo tàng nó một cái song với cái cột ở tại bên Hàn Quốc nó bên nó xây một cái nhà bảo tàng 5 tầng để và có giám đốc bảo tàng của kéo co, riêng một cái kéo co là thế mà nó có đủ hết, nó tập hợp cả Campuchia này, cả Philippines này, Hàn Quốc thì không nói rồi, Hàn Quốc thì mỗi một tầng một phòng là nó có, thế là mình Việt Nam mình sang đấy thì nó cũng dành cho mình một phòng trưng bày và ảnh nhất là mình chụp xong rồi là đưa vào đây. Cây xong
đây
có khi mình đi sang Hàn Quốc là chở cả cây xong này, chở cả một cái trụ cột bằng gỗ này và thế để cho phi máy bay sang.
Cây song cũng nhỏ đấy anh nhờ.
Không, cây song đúng cây song kéo.
Trên 60 mét.
Đấy, thì quấn nhỏ lại, xong bọc đây. Thế là tặng luôn bảo tàng. Hôm đó này trực tiếp hôm đó nhận là chủ tịch tỉnh nha, coi như nhận cái cây song đó, coi như mình tặng làm cái lễ tặng.
Đây còn mấy anh Hàn Quốc với lại bên Đài Loan đây, thế là thấy vui quá để cũng vào đăng ký. Đăng ký là đầu tiên tưởng là dễ ăn, nhưng đến khi nó ngồi kéo xong kéo không 2 phút thở cho được. 2 phút thở cho được. Đại khái là cô cong gối cái là các vị là vỗ gối này cứ thẳng ra, đến lúc khi mà không kéo được nữa thì mới vẫy có người thì ra thì bỏ ra chứ không đi được. Đấy, cái năm nào tôi cho thằng Đài Loan kéo.
Ý là cũng ở cái nhưng mà có thời gian nên là không có thời gian kéo.
Không phải nó không đúng với quy định rồi, không chưa cho được.
Cũng rất vinh dự cho Bình Xuyên hôm nay được đón các cô chú, các anh chị trong hội di sản của Trung ương về làm việc với Bình Xuyên. Chúng cháu thì cũng rất là mong muốn các cô, các chú, các anh chị của hội di sản cũng như là của địa phương Hà Nội cũng sẽ có những cái kết nối để Bình Xuyên chúng cháu cũng được giao lưu với các địa phương khác trên địa bàn trên cả nước.
Đoàn Hà Nội do chị Nị là trưởng đoàn. Thế thì anh em chúng tôi trong cái cộng đồng của những người được lưu truyền, giữ gìn và bảo tồn, phát huy cái giá trị di sản văn hóa mà UNESCO vinh danh. Hôm nay đến Bình Xuyên và được tiếp với các bác ở Bình Xuyên và với thị trấn Hương Canh, thì chúng tôi cùng với Hương Canh, cùng với Bình Xuyên, ta luôn luôn giữ gìn, bảo tồn và phát huy giá trị di sản văn hóa, và ta mong muốn là sự kết nối giao lưu giữa Hà Nội với Vĩnh Phúc với lại được UNESCO vinh danh, mong muốn là ngày một không xa và càng về sau thì cái sự giao lưu, sự gắn kết của Hà Nội với Vĩnh Phúc sẽ được thắt chặt hơn và thường xuyên được giao lưu với nhau. Xin nâng cấp chúc mừng các bác.
Thắt chặt còn phát triển.
Phát triển. Cảm ơn rất nhiều nhé.
Nhà mình
một ngày gần nhất tôi sẽ xuống chỗ đơn vị anh chơi nhé.
Ok thì và chúng tôi lúc nào cũng tiếp các ông rất đàng hoàng, mà đến lúc nào là chúng tôi tiếp lúc nào.
Chưa. có buổi đầu mà học nhau như đây dân quạt thế này.
Rồi.
Phải rồi đấy. Anh này à. Rồi. Vâng, cảm ơn nhé. Ngang ngố đấy.
Ngang ngố
đấy.
Cháu chào chú ạ.
Rồi, xin cảm ơn nhé.
Chú ạ.
Trong cái buổi mà hôm giao lưu giữa Việt Nam và Hàn Quốc đó, nhân cái kỷ niệm mà đoàn của Hàn Quốc 6 cái tỉnh kéo con người Hàn Quốc sang Việt Nam và có một cái buổi giao lưu tại đền Trấn Quốc đây. Để chính trong bài phát biểu tôi muốn đề xuất tên là gì? Tức là sợi dây kết nối cái sợi rơm cọng rơm của Hàn Quốc hay cây song của Việt Nam muốn được nối dài với lại Hàn Quốc với thực. Đó là mong muốn của chúng tôi. Nhưng cái sự kết nối đó thì chúng tôi mong muốn đó và chúng tôi phấn đấu thực hiện trong đất nước của chúng tôi bằng cách là phải đưa cái nghi lễ truyền thống kéo co ngồi để cho các con các cháu học sinh trên địa bàn của quận và phường sẽ hiểu được. Ta cứ mang tiếng hô hào là ta phát huy, nhưng mà phát huy đâu? Phát huy chính bằng cái nơi dạy dỗ con cháu. Đấy là
cũng nhiều năm mà chúng tôi đưa học sinh đi tham quan di tích lịch sử địa phương, thì với cá nhân tôi thì tôi rất hài lòng về cái cách làm việc của ban tổ chức cũng như là đón tiếp đến những cái di tích lịch sử. Đây cũng là niềm tự hào của những thế hệ trẻ, của những giáo viên và những nhà quản lý, và chúng tôi luôn trân trọng và mong muốn là bảo tồn cái di tích lịch sử này.
Đó là cái chỗ sau khi được vinh danh thì ngày trước là anh em có thể là các cháu thiếu niên có thể là xăm chỗ là mình vẫn cho kéo, nhưng đến nay là khi mà là được vinh danh thì tất cả những các con cháu là các em mà khi mà đã xăm trổ mà đã lộ ra là chúng tôi sẽ loại những cái thanh niên ra khỏi cái chỗ danh sách mà để tôi tham gia lễ hội kéo co. Thanh niên là chân tay người ngợm đen xì rồi này, dứt khoát là không được vào. Còn nếu như mà mình xăm mà gọi là để làm đẹp đấy thì vẫn được vào, nhưng còn cái thành phần mà quá nhiều đến 7-8% thân thể rồi thì không cho vào ấy. Khi mà lễ hội làng tổ chức từ trước tới nay đã cách mấy chục năm phục hồi lại thì cái bộ môn kéo co là bộ môn chủ đạo của cái lễ hội. Tất cả khi mà anh kể nhân dân là anh em đến ngày tổ chức kéo co thì kể cả là xin nghỉ việc cơ quan vẫn đến tổ chức, kể cả không được kéo vẫn đến để phục vụ. Đấy, chứ không phải là đến hôm nay chúng ta được vinh danh như vậy.
Nói về truyền thống chỉ có làm thôi. Thế xong là khi được vinh danh xong thì nghĩ rằng là cái truyền thống ngày xưa chỉ có làm giới kéo. Thế do vậy là đội nữ ngày xưa là cả vận động cả nữ đấy. Thì năm 95, năm 96 chúng tôi là tổ chức, và đến đến trước khi mà được vinh danh ấy, thì đội nữ mới thôi. Chứ còn đội nữ thì rất muốn là tham gia kéo. Thì kéo cũng để tăng cường sức khỏe thôi, nhưng và rèn luyện sức khỏe chị em thôi, không vấn gì khác cả. Mà muốn cả nam cả nữ kéo cũng được. Nhưng mà sau đó thì theo truyền thống mà thì có ý kiến nọ ý kiến kia, thì sẽ nói với chị thế nọ kia, thì do vậy là thôi thì nữ hắn tạm, chứ không phải là bỏ hẳn. Chị em rất muốn tham gia. Đến bây giờ thì động viên là thì em tham gia ngay, và người ta cũng muốn tranh đấu về sức khỏe, người ta muốn rèn luyện sức khỏe. Xong đó trong những ngày dịp này người ta thể hiện tinh thần thượng võ. Đấy, chị em cũng thể hiện tinh thần thượng võ, bài trưng bài triệu. Đấy, học tập các truyền thống.
Đó là khi mà được vinh danh là cô vinh danh thì chỗ anh em là rất phấn khởi. Quê hương ta, bản thân chúng ta là những người đóng góp để duy trì phục hồi được cái kéo co ngồi, thì là anh em rất phấn khởi. Kể cả cái lúc trước là để đi giao lưu thì các anh em muốn đi, nhưng thực ra là cái kinh tế thì nó khó khăn. Các cháu thì toàn nhỏ tuổi thì không thể có từng cái tiền để đi giao lưu được. Thì cũng mong là ở trong nước thì đề nghị là cũng cho tổ chức đi giao lưu với các địa phương. Chúng ta có 6 tỉnh có cái kéo co thì để anh em đi giao lưu thì là để cho nó vừa hiểu biết cái phong tục của từng nơi, cũng như là các em rèn luyện sức khỏe.
네, 지금 보신 영상은 베트남
The video that you just saw was a place about 45 kilometers away from Hanoi, and it was on to the tugging rituals and games. And we have Kim Twing, Mr. Kim Twing from CCH. Can you maybe give us a short introduction on the video, please?
Ms. Jung, I really apologize for interrupt. Sorry. Can you hear me? Ms. Jung, can you hear my voice? I'm sorry for interrupt. Your voice is very low, so we cannot hear you well. No, we cannot hear you. So, Ms. Jung, what about the changing the seat or just move to the Tang's place? Yes, it might be better too, I think. Sorry.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, very clearly.
Hello, everyone. I'm very proud to be invited to this meeting, very important meeting, and to follow up with Mr. Tang's presentation. We had shown screen short film that you have seen, and to sum up with the film, I would like to give a short introduction of the content of the film. The film is about the delegation of Long Biên communities together with the leaders of the Cultural Heritage Association and the leaders of CCH, the Center for Cultural Heritage Research and Promotion, to visit the community of Pyeongchang, the Tugging Region and Games community in Hương Khanh, Vĩnh Phúc province in October 2020. And the second point that the film tells you is about the great effort of the management board of the Churning Temple in bringing cultural heritage to school by working with the local office for education and culture to encourage them bringing students to the Churning Temple. And they, with the support of CCH, they also prepared PowerPoint, a video and contents for the introduction about the heritage to the students, so that they to raise awareness and understanding of the students about the traditions and encourage them to join in safeguarding the local traditions. And third point of the film is about the exchange of performance among Long Biên Tugging Region and Games community together with the Korean Tugging Region and Games Safeguarding Association in 2018 and in 2019 in Korea. And the fourth point that the film tells you is that about the impacts, positive and also negative as well, and the changes about the changes of the tradition after the inscription into the representative list of UNESCO. That you see that the community's awareness is raised. You can see through that they try to preserve. They understand that in the situation of globalization and urbanization, they have to preserve the core features and the quintessence of their traditions. For example, they try to keep the rule of selection of participants to the tugging team as strictly as they had been regulated by their ancestors. For example, in case of people who is in mourning situation, are not encouraged to join the event, to join the performance of tugging ritual and games. And the other points that the film tells you about the effort in promotion of that tradition through expanding their exchange visits to other localities in the province and in other provinces in Vietnam. And the last point that the film tells you is about that as the initiative, they actively support the plan of establishing a Khmer community networking in Vietnam, and they also express their wishes of cooperate with other communities of tugging ritual and games in the region, such as in Korea, Cambodia, and the Philippines. Thank you very much. So these are the points that the film we would like to show to you and give you a brief understanding of the viability and visibility of the tugging ritual and games in Vietnam nowadays. Thank you.
네, 베트남의
Well, that was a field visit report in some region of Vietnam, and the video and behind the scenes of the video was explained by Ms. Nguyen Kim Jung. After watching the video, I really wanted to visit the sites. And after this pandemic is over, I hope that all of us can make a visit to these beautiful sites. So this brings us to the end of today's celebratory event, One Asia with Rope, of the 4 countries, Korea, Vietnam, the Philippines, and Cambodia. They've shared their progresses after the joint inscription, and then we also explore the future ways to further develop this tug of war rituals and games. We were supposed to end at 4 o'clock, but now we went beyond the time schedule and had this event for almost 3 years. The COVID-19 is posing an unprecedented crisis to this world as of now, and when we live in this world, we will be facing many more unexpected challenges in the future. And whenever we face such challenges, all we can do, humans do, is to make a prayer to deities and gods. And as you well know, Tug of War is not only a fun game, but also a prayer and a ritual to make a prayer to our gods. And I think that the COVID-19 clearly shows why we need tug of war rituals in this 21st century. It is another great opportunity to see the values of tug of war, because it is a ritual to make blessing and pray for prosperity of the humanity. Therefore, it has to be handed over to the coming generations in the future. Thank you, audience and participants, for your attention. And my gratitude also goes to those who have made videos and have sent some congratulatory speeches. And I'm also grateful to all of the participants, like the Ko Dae-young of Korea, and Miss Letty Min Lee, and the Ouen Duc Tak, Ouen Kim Jung from Vietnam, Mr. Sion from Cambodia, and Miss Renee Talavera from the Philippines, and other very distinguished participants and speakers. I'd like to extend my gratitude to our gracious hosts, CHA and HCA. This year, because of the pandemic, this event has been held at a small scale and on a virtual format, but next year we can cut the cake together, and then we can have high fives together by having this physical meetings and encounters. After the joint inscription in December 2015, we had this victory in Namibia, and this is an opportunity to go over the victory one more time. Thank you very much for your attention.